Hi everyone, it's Mel Hurry from Mel Hurry Films. So as you're aware, I'm starting to do like snippets of tips and advice that can help you in your film projects as part of my So You Want to Make a Movie program. One of the key things that I'd like to talk to you today is about planning. Now, being organised is going to be super important if you're making a film. You can't just let things happen. It doesn't work like that. So here's some fundamental tips that actually helped me. So again, I like to give some anecdotal advice because these are the things that I've been through when making, okay, 2 movies, but you know, at the same time, I learned so much from it, and this is why I'm sharing this with you today. So let's talk about planning. Planning is probably one of the most important things. So I spoke about the backup plan, but let's talk about the initial plan. First of all, understanding the concept of your story. And I'm talking from the perspective of you've written a story, now you want to make it. Great, that's perfect. Or maybe you've written a story, someone else wants to make it. That's perfect. So if you're in that position where you've read a script and you've said to that person, right now, I want to produce this and I want to get a director involved, etc., etc., great, that's amazing. So if we're thinking about planning now, what is going to be your first step? So when I was actually making my film, when I took it to Maybe It's Not, which was like the lockdown one, that was very simple. So I don't think I'll talk too much about that right now. But one of the things that I would like to talk about is probably the most complex one that I've done so far, which was for How It Is. So How It Is required a lot more of me into it because we were going to be on location. Again, there was multiple people involved in that, and also it was, you know, there was money involved. So Maybe It's Not was a no budget short film, and How It Is was, of course, a very low budget but still required financing and savvy planning, you know, executing a plan that was cost effective, as well as making sure you had a really good and safe environment. So the first thing that I started to do was to look at dates, because you have to think about the mood of the film. So think about, right, is it going to be set in winter? And again, you know, if you're not in a studio where you can create some of this stuff, if you haven't got maybe a team that's fully equipped with CGI or anything like that, then yeah, you're going to have to rely on maybe some natural environment, which, you know, which is fine, which is great. It always adds to the feel of the movie. So first of all, you wanted to find out, right, okay, how moody is this film? Is it set in summer? Is it set in winter? What do I prefer to film in? So this was a little bit more of a selfish thing. I'm not a huge winter person, so one of the things that I really wanted to avoid was shooting on days that it was just going to constantly rain. So I'm from England and it rains all the time. So I wanted to make sure I picked a nice season where we could be outside and film and it was still pleasant. If we had to stay back a bit late, we still had nice weather, or even if it was going to rain or it was going to be a little bit cooler, it was okay, like it was okay to be out there. So start to think about some of the timings of the year that you'd like to film in. That's the first plan, so start to think about your dates. The next thing, because I'd already written this story, this screenplay a while back, I had characters in mind. I had an idea of who I'd like to play each role, and or who I'd like them to play each role, kind of thing. I had an idea. I visualized it. And so what I then started to do was looking at cast members just to check their availability as well. So, you know, think about the next activity. Who do you want to be in your movie? Then start looking at your crew. Who can actually do the job? Some people might mix and match this and might say, actually, no, find your crew first and find your actors. For me personally, if I don't have the actors, there's no point in me hiring a crew. So get your actors in. So understand your actors. You know, you can literally do online auditions. You don't have to hire a place for them to do a live audition. Just, we've got the, you know, opportunity of using Zoom. We've got an opportunity of them sending recordings, etc. So why not get them to send you recordings, get through the initial auditions. If you feel you must meet them in person, do that. Add that to the plan as well. And yeah, again, so we've already got the 3 activities here. Understanding the time of year that you want to film, start to get your cast members and start to look for them, get the first load of auditions in. Once you've started to look and you're quite impressed with the people that you've got so far, have a chat with them as well. That's another thing, you know, don't just say, right, you're casted for this role. A huge thing that what I really enjoy doing, I was having a Zoom chat with each and every one of them. We were still in lockdown then, so it wasn't about meeting up in close proximity. So during that time, it was about trying to get to know these people, see if they understood the script or understood the passage of the script that they read, what their interpretation was of it. And then we were able to move forward with that, because that's when you understand that if you can know you can work with them, then you know you can start to move on to the next phase. And that could be a bit more of a deep dive into their auditioning. So you could give them a scene to audition, give them something else to audition, and you know, see how they vibe with that. The next thing, of course, is to get the crew members. So start to think about your crew. So you got your cast, and let's just say everything's perfect. They've said, yeah, we can film at that time. You've picked some really good dates. We're quiet that month. Brilliant. Get your crew members in. 9 times out of 10, crew members will be available, especially because if you're paying them, you're paying your actors as well. They'll make that time to become a bit more available. So yeah, so get your crew members in there as well. And like I said, always have the backups from the previous video. So if you haven't already checked out my previous video about having a backup plan, this is the initial plan. Look at my previous video where I talk about the backup plan. So, so yeah, you've got your, so what have we done? We've done time of year that we want to shoot. We've got our cast members. We've got our crew members. Next one is fixing dates. So they're all happy with the month that you want to, month or 2 months that you want to film. Get the dates locked in. This is where a dependent activity comes in, and that is looking for the right location. So this is where you have to start asking for those favors of people that might be able to lend you some of the location areas, and if not, think about people that you can connect with and that you can collaborate with, especially from a business to business perspective. So as a filmmaker, you're a business, okay? So let's get that straight. Why are you a business? Because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with money, you're dealing with location, you're dealing with stakeholders that are external and internal. So naturally, you have to operate like a business. You need to show your professionalism. You also need to show that you're willing to collaborate and network further beyond that. So again, another load of planning goes into that. Understanding the location, what the hire rates are, can you negotiate on that? Oh, there's so much to it. Can you even, you know, work out a good deal? So if you wanted it for free, what could you do for them? Is it an extra promo? Making sure people are on the credits once the film is in post-production. There are so many elements to that. So what have we got now? We've got time of year booked in. We've got the cast members. We've got the crew members. We've got location. Securing the dates and location as well, that goes with that. And then the next part is making the actual movie. So this is where the team is involved. So let's just start to focus a little bit more on your crew members now. Who have you got as your crew members? Naturally, you would have had a DOP, director of photography, for those of you that are just coming into film industry and I'm trying to understand the terminology. Your sound person, make sure the sound person is a really good sound. I say sound person because I don't want to say sound man or sound woman, because it could be anyone. So yeah, so sound person. Make sure you've got, you know, all your extras, like, you know, think about an assistant director, the main director, of course. Why would I go to the assistant first if I don't have the main director? So that could be you. I mean, for instance, I was played like multiple roles. And also think about people who might fund the project. So don't forget your exec producers. They might be bringing money into it. You could, like I did, it was a bit more of a self-funded film with a bit of crowdfunding. So again, for those of you that are listening that did contribute to the crowdfunding for How It Is, I really do thank you from the bottom of my heart. That really, really helped me execute this great project. And also, I know all of you have got credits on IMDb, so please do check that if you haven't done so already. So yeah, so one of the things is, yeah, making sure that, where was I? So yeah, your exec producer. So remember, so yeah, your exec producer. So remember, you're starting to define those roles and responsibilities. Who is using what? Okay. So again, it's another huge activity that needs to be done. And then also you might have a storyboard artist. Now, they're important. Why? Because visually you need to see how this story looks. What position do you want people in? How do you envision the movie to look? This is a, you know, it's, I mean, to be honest, lessons learned, I didn't use a storyboard artist. I went completely rogue because I was producer, director, screenwriter. I already knew what I wanted in my head, and it was just about directing the actors and actresses well. So there's probably going to be people out there going to say, Mel, what are you talking about? You need a storyboard artist. Yeah, I do agree with that, but let's focus on funds here. Okay, so if you've got a limited budget, there are going to be some sort of things that you're going to have to shortcut on, and when you shortcut on them, just make sure you're still putting a qualitative output out there. Okay, so it's about making sure you still got that quality there if you're going to shave off on a few things. Yeah. Yeah, so we've got that in there. We want to make sure that we can visualize what that story looks like, and then once we get to it, don't forget people like hair and makeup. Hair and makeup are really important because not only is it's not always about looking pretty, it's also about making sure that, you know, the lighting works with the makeup that's being used. You know, again, thinking about, you know, special effects makeup, all sorts of things like that. You need to make sure that you've got those crew members briefed, and of course that they're available for those dates as well, and that they're encompassed in a budget. So behind all of these activities, there's this thing called this major thing. It's a budget. So just make sure that you can finance that, and if you can't finance it, what can you do to make sure that this can still take place? If you haven't got a huge amount of money, what negotiation can you make? What agreements can you make? So I'm talking about planning. Seeped in there's a bit of budgeting, and also there's a bit of this thing called communication. So with every single plan, can you please make sure everyone is communicated with? This is a huge issue. So again, reverting back to my previous video on the backup plan, sometimes there's a backup plan because the communications could be a little bit misaligned. Just make sure everything is nicely clear. When you get your actors on set, before that, 24 hours before, 48 hours before, please make sure you have a call sheet with emergency contact details, the nearest hospital, the actual address of the location, and please make sure that that's in bold. Again, lessons learned. For those of you who worked on How It Is with me, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Just make sure that's in bold. Make sure people know exactly where they're meant to be. Timings of the day. Make sure, now this again aligns with the budget that I was talking about. So not everyone's got, you know, $1 million or £1 million budget behind a movie, especially when you're just starting out. It's a passion project, yeah? So the idea is you need to make sure that if an actor or a crew member is needed at a specific time, remember, you might be paying them by the hour. You could be paying them by the day, which is great if you've got the budget to do that. Not many people have. So just make sure that if you've got that disclaimer there. If anyone gets there a little bit earlier, then it's possible that they won't be paid for that time. They need to come on time with what is on the call sheet and what is contracted to them. And also, if they do, now this is where the integrity comes in. If you do roll over into more hours than what was stipulated on the contract and the call sheet, pay them. Do not make shortcuts, okay? there might be some instances where they may say, you know what, it's fine, you know, we really love being here, don't worry about the money, that's great. But you as a filmmaker need to have that integrity. So again, like I said, you're a business and your reputation is important. So I've spoken about multiple factors here. I'm not going to go into too much now because it's 15 minutes of your time, and I'm really hoping that you got something from what I was talking about. Feel free to disagree with me, feel free to agree with me. Comment below, make sure you tell me how useful you found it. Again, I do run workshops based on planning a movie, respect and well-being in the industry, and of course challenging imposter syndrome, which will be running in June. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Right, for now, this is Mel Harry signing out. Bye.